Thank you for listening to Travel Michigan. I'm Dave Lorenz, along with Michelle Grinnell, and we're going to find out about one of my favorite activities. I know you've been bored to death by me over the years, talking about how much I like to run, and I do. We're going to find out about somebody who actually does it well, though, in contrast to the way I run. We're going to head all the way up to the UP, right, Michelle?
We are. We're heading up to Marquette as well as some other places, but we're going to start in Marquette, and we're talking with Scott Drumm, who has the UP Ultra Run Double coming up on August 17th. And so we'll get into this feat that he is trying to undertake for that. But before we get there, let's start with just kind of ultra running. I mean, people know what running is. They've heard of marathons, but I think ultra running is something that a lot of people may not be as familiar with.
Right. Ultra running basically is defined as anything over a marathon, so anything that's greater than 26.2 miles. And the standard ultra run is 50 kilometers, which is about 31 miles up to a 100-mile race. And then, of course, there are longer races, but the typical is 50 kilometers to 100 miles.
You know, that's just kind of crazy stuff. I mean,
so far.
I think, and like I mentioned, Scott, I'm certainly not in the best of shape, but just doing a marathon for me just completely wipes me out. And I'm sure, if I was more of a real athlete, maybe it wouldn't, knock me out as much as it does. But I can't imagine doing much more than that.
No, and the thing about the marathon, marathon or 5K to marathon, that's still amazing. It's basically, I always look at it as people pick their challenges and pick their adventure. And, sometimes things go longer. You might be personally inspired someday to go longer. And then the three cardinal rules, by the way, if you're going beyond a marathon, even in a marathon you eat. But the three cardinal rules of any ultra run is nutrition, nutrition, nutrition.
Yeah.
So that might stoke some interest for people. You get to eat anything you want.
That's the best thing about running. You get to eat.
And when you do the ultra runs, are you running on like road pavement surfaces, or is this a little more off trail, or either way?
Well, it can go either way. There are road ultras. 100K distance, which is 62 miles, is quite common. There's even world championships and whatnot for the 100K. But most of the running that I do, and most of the ultras in general, usually conjure up images of trail running, even, especially out west in the mountains. But in general, it's trail running, and usually you have single track, rocks, roots, sand, windy, undulating, lots of ascents and descents. So you have to actually, what's interesting is you throw that in the mix, and then ultra runs kind of take the whole adventure running as well.
And you really have to pay attention in that type of running, because you don't want to be, tripping, and your 35th mile. It just doesn't feel very good.
Correct. Oh yeah, and that's sometimes what keeps it fun is the time tends to go by a lot quicker. All of a sudden you're out there for 3 or 4 hours because you pay attention to your feet, and you don't have to look at long straightaways and whatnot. But also, what's fun, you get to stop now and again at amazing views where, wherever you find trails. Normally you have different areas that cause you to slow down and take it all in rather than just plodding along on the road. So for me, it's all about physical activity, through trail running. And then you get pretty adept as well. Once you learn the tricks of the trade, your feet tend to float over objects once you get more seasoned.
Well, you're an associate professor of exercise physiology at Northern Michigan University, and with that type of responsibility, I'm sure that you're constantly talking about training, and you're doing a lot of training yourself, getting ready for this big run. Where do you generally do your training?
Well, a lot of my training is in the Marquette area, and we have north and south trails, so I can pretty much, from where I live actually in town, I can hit dirt within a mile or so from my house, and I'll spend a couple hours most days just running on dirt trails. And there's also the North Country Trail comes through this area, so if you want to be a little more adventurous, there's a 4-peak loop, we call it. It's a 10-mile loop, and it's 4 peaks, and it climbs about 1,600 feet total in really rocky, undulating terrain.
And really beautiful area, too. And that's part of, especially the training, not only, in my experiences, being able to run with friends and all that, but it's all the scenery and just the beauty of nature in Michigan really provides something to take your mind off the run.
Oh, it's phenomenal, and especially with the lakes in the area. Every time you get to a high point on this Fort Peak loop, for instance, it's 10 miles long, but it usually takes about 2 hours unless you're really trying to go hard. But you get to stop on each peak and take it all in. And even up here, the Huron Mountains give you some contrast with the lakes.
So, Scott, talk about, you're about to embark on the UP Ultra Run Double, which is going to include both Pictured Rocks and Isle Royale National Park in the same day, if I am correct.
Correct, and hopefully the weather is good and my energy levels are good. To complete it, it'll be 82.5 miles roughly total. And I thought, personally, it was an inspiring thing to undertake. And since I grew up in Wisconsin and was close to the UP, I hadn't explored it much. But since getting into running and really more trail running, the idea, I thought, well, why not give it a try? And also, I'll make mention of sometimes with these adventure runs through national parks, you can go for what are called fastest known times, which adds a little extra spice to the situation. It's more of an adventure and personal limits and whatnot, but also maybe doing something first. It is kind of an interesting, unique perspective.
Well, I was looking at your itinerary. So you're talking about running the trail of Pictured Rocks National Lakeshore, which is 42.5 miles, jumping on a float plane, going to Isle Royale National Park, running the entire length of that island, which is about 40 miles. So you'll do 82.5 miles in one day.
Correct. Yeah, that's the goal, or at least within 24 hours. I'm going to give myself that since I will probably leave. I want to get a little sleep, so I'll probably leave at 2:30 a.m., 3 a.m. On August 17th. And then, hopefully I'm done before then on Isle Royale.
Well, there's the problem, isn't it? Is after you run a big, long run, then you sit down for a while and, have the possibility of really kind of stiffening up a bit, and then you're going to run another 40 miles. That really is kind of crazy. It really is.
Right. I think, and on paper, I know it looks kind of, it was logistically fun. It looks crazy. And, but for the record, it's really, you look at all this other cool adventurous things that people try. And again, it can be from a 5K to a marathon, but I'll throw out there's individuals that go, for instance, 2,100 miles Appalachian Trail records. They'll spend 46 days doing about 50 miles a day. So I'm hoping that I like to do stuff in a day, so that I can rest and not have that continuous. So it could be worse.
Well, the good thing is you will have some absolutely spectacular scenery and Pictured Rocks National Lakeshore, and then over at Isle Royale. Just watch out for the black bears and the wolves. You'll be fine. And actually, you don't want to run into them on accident, because that's the only time you run into problems with bears. It's going to be a great time, I'm sure, though. So good luck, Scott. Scott Drumm, President, UP Ultra Run Double, going for the big record on August 17th. And for more information, just go to fastestknowntime.proboards.com. Wow. Great event. Well, speaking of events, we have a lot of them happening around the state, Michelle.
We do, and folks who may want to get out and maybe not do an ultra run, but kind of get out and walk. The Labor Day Mackinac Bridge Walk is coming up on Labor Day, as the name would imply. And so this is a great opportunity to experience Mighty Mac in a kind of a different perspective. Chandler Hill Campground in Boyne Falls is hosting the ATV Run and Ride also on Labor Day. To enjoy a Labor Day guided trail ride in northern Michigan, around 55 miles. Downtown Royal Oak is hosting Arts, Beats, and Eats August 29th through September 1st. Nearly 400,000 people come to this to eat.
Wow.
And beat and do arts. So it's a great event. You've got Michigan Peach Festival coming up the 28th through September 1st in Romeo, one of our many agriculturally driven festivals in the state. Eaton County Fairgrounds in Charlotte will host Frontier Days September 3rd through the 7th with pioneer spirited guests And we've got the Antique Engine and Tractor Show at the Michigan Flywheelers Museum in South Haven, September 4th through the 7th. Brighton Smoke and Jazz and Barbecue Blues Festival is September 5th through the 9th. And Art and Apples Festival in Rochester is happening September 5th through the 7th. It's Michigan's second largest juried fine arts festival. So lots going on, lots to plan. Be sure to go to michigan.org to find these events and many, many more.
Absolutely, and we're going to find out about one of those cool events coming up soon. It's up in Mackinac Island, and it's not involving any running, so you're going to really enjoy this. It's a great deal of fun. We'll learn about it next right here on Travel Michigan, where your trip begins at michigan.org.